Hello everybody, today we're going to work on painting the Knight player character from the Dark Souls board game. I've started by undercoating the model with just a flat gray spray primer, and we're going to use gunmetal from the Army Painter to paint in all of the silver metallics. So that's going to be the chainmail, it's going to be most of the shield, any armor that you find on his legs and arms, and then of course the sword and the helmet. The next step is to use ultramarine blue to paint the blue details, which is going to be his pants. Make sure to be careful and not hit the metal details you've already painted. Next, we're going to use weapon bronze from the Army Painter to paint the border of the shield. Use a smaller brush and take your time so that you don't get it on the metal details you've already painted, but if you do, don't worry about it, just go back in with the same color. Next, we're going to paint his belt using leather brown. Now that we've got all the base coats on, the next step is to apply a wash in order to darken the miniature, apply our shades and shadows. I'm using dark tone from the Army Painter. You could use any dark wash such as Nuln Oil from Citadel. I'm using a medium shade brush. Make sure you don't have too much on your brush, and as you push it around, make sure it doesn't pool too much in the recesses. Again, you're going to cover the entire miniature with a nice coat of this dark tone. Once the shade is completely dry, we're going to work on brightening the miniature back up, and to start we're going to dry brush gunmetal back onto all of the metallics. This is going to be a light dry brush. Don't go too heavy with it as we don't want to ruin the shaded detail we've just created with the wash. So I'm going to be applying this in a top-down motion where most of the light would be hitting, so don't worry about dry brushing the underside of the model. Just hit all the top areas with a small dry brush. The next step is to use plate mail, which is a lighter metallic color, to apply a zenithal dry brush over the parts of the miniature that are going to be in direct sunlight. So it's going to be the large flat area of the shield, top of the sword, top of the helmet, maybe the top of his arms and shoulders if the metallics are facing the direct sun. And if you've liked the video so far, go ahead and like and subscribe. Next, we're going to finish off the metallics by applying an edge highlight using Shining Silver from the Army Painter. I'm using a smaller brush now as I can have more control. Make sure to not have too much paint on your brush as you don't want it going everywhere. So for the edge highlight, you're going to be applying small thin lines around the border of the shield, going on the bronze and the silver metallics you've already done. You're going to do the edges of the sword. You're going to pick out the sharpest features on the tops of his shoulder pauldrons, elbows, maybe the fingers of his gauntlets, maybe the tops of his shoes, and any other sharp details that are facing the direct sun. Next, we're applying a layer of leather brown back on top of the belt, making sure to keep out of the recesses. And this is just to bring the color back up so it's a little brighter, stands out a little bit more on the miniature. The next step is to layer up the cloth on his legs using ultramarine blue. You're going to want to stick to the tops of the folds and any flat areas that are facing the direct sun. Don't worry about hitting directly underneath the miniature, as it's okay if that's dark. That'll add some depth to the model. Just keep yourself to the top of the sharpest edges of the folds and any of the flat areas that are going to be facing the direct sun. The final step to finish the miniature is to paint the base. I'll be painting the entire base using a flat black. And with that final step complete, the miniature is completely done, highlighted, and it looks really cool. Perfect for taking on the monsters in your next campaign.